Hello, and welcome to another vlog. Christmas is a week away, which means that this is my last vlog of 2018. And to celebrate the holidays, I thought I'd spend the duration of today's video talking about some gift ideas for people with disabilities. So here are 5 useful gifts for people with disabilities. Starting off for our list at number 1 is adaptive clothing, which is the perfect gift for all the fashionistas out there. Now, adaptive clothing basically refers to any clothing that is designed for people with disabilities, and you may remember me talking about it in a previous video last year. Anyway, adaptive clothing tends to be designed to be a lot easier to get on and off, and it also tends to be designed for different body types. So oftentimes adaptive clothing will use things like magnetic fasteners instead of buttons or zippers to make them easier to take on and off. And like I said, they tend to be designed for different body types. So they might be designed for people in wheelchairs or people with prosthetics or a wide range of other disabilities, and the list goes on and on. So you can see why adaptive clothing is such a useful gift for people with disabilities. Um, anyway, it just so happens that Tommy Hilfiger has their own line of adaptive clothing, Tommy Hilfiger Adaptive, which I will include a link to in the description below. Number 2 is smart devices, such as Google Home and Amazon Alexa. Now, I have talked about these a few times before, and the reason being is, as someone who has his own Google Home, I can tell you just how useful they really are, especially for people with disabilities. To start off, these smart devices can be hooked up to a lot of appliances and electronics, such as light bulbs and thermostats, which you can then control with your voice and control remotely. But they can also do a lot of other useful things. You can use them to make phone calls, play music, set events and reminders, and the list of things that you can do just goes on and on. So I understand why they're useful for everyone, but particularly people with disabilities. And that's why they're on this list. And the best part is, a Google Home Mini only costs about $40, so getting one isn't going to break the bank. Next, number 3 is adaptive video game controllers, which is the perfect gift for all the gamers out there. Now, again, you'll remember me talking about adaptive video gaming in an earlier video last year. And when I talk about adaptive video game controllers, I'm talking about any video game controller that is designed for people with disabilities who can't use conventional controllers. So this could include accessibility switches, joysticks, sip and puff controllers, etc. and etc. And it just so happens that Microsoft actually released an adaptive video game controller for Xbox, the Xbox Adaptive Controller, which is compatible with Xbox and Windows 10 and works with some of those devices, such as the accessibility switches and the sip and puff controllers, like I mentioned. And it's getting great reviews. It costs about $130, which does seem expensive, but compared to a lot of other adaptive video game controllers, that's actually a pretty good price. Anyway, it's getting some great reviews, and I'll include a link to that in the description below for anyone who wants to check it out. Number 4 is noise canceling headphones. Now, I include these on the list specifically for people with autism or ADHD or any other disability with a sensory component, because these individuals are oftentimes very sensitive to loud noises and other things like that. And noise canceling headphones can be good for these individuals because it helps filter out some of that excess noise, which allows them to focus and function better than they would otherwise. And of course, noise canceling headphones can also be used just like regular headphones, so you can use them to listen to your tunes without having to worry about being interrupted by the world around you. And the price really varies depending on what brand or model of headphones that you're going to get, but there is quite a few options out there to choose from. And then finally, number 5, rounding off our list, is an electric blanket. Now, I particularly include this on the list for people with chronic pain, especially those whose symptoms can be managed using heat. Now, an electric blanket is basically just a blanket that you plug into the wall to warm it up. But for people with chronic pain, an electric blanket can be as effective for relieving pain as something like a hot water bottle. And as an added bonus, they're a great way to stay warm. Now, of course, heated blankets and electric blankets don't benefit everyone with chronic pain. It really depends on what type of pain that they have and how they manage their symptoms. But like I said, if the symptoms can be managed using heat, then an electric blanket could be a good option for people like this, and it could be very useful. And even if they can't use it for their pain, winter's kind of cold, so it could be something they could use to keep themselves warm, especially if the power goes out. So that's just a quick overview of some gifts for people with disabilities. Now, I think it goes without saying that I'm not endorsing any of these products, but I do think that they're definitely worth checking out. And like I said, I'll include some links in the description below to some of the products that I talked about for anyone who wants to check them out. Anyway, now I'd like to change gears and talk about this week's topic, which is palliative care. Specifically, I want to talk about the 5 basic principles of palliative care. Now, palliative care is a form of personal care that's intended to prevent and relieve pain and suffering. And most people, when they think of palliative care, they think of end of life care. But the fact is, palliative care can actually benefit anyone at any stage of their illness. And there's a lot of different types of palliative care. Anyway, palliative care can be divided into 5 main principles, which I'm going to talk about briefly. So, the first principle is compassion. This means having empathy and respect for the individual that you're caring for. Or to put it another way, being able to put yourself in that individual's shoes and understand what they're going through. Palliative care is really built around compassion, just because of the nature of the care that you're providing. Number 2 is consideration. So by this, I mean having respect for an individual's personality and culture and any other factors that are going to influence the type of care that they will receive, and providing care to them in a way that acknowledges those factors and respects their wishes, because depending on their cultural practices and their personality traits, that could very well dictate what kind of care that they want to receive. Number 3 is consent. So basically, this doesn't just mean getting permission from the individual you're caring for to provide them care, but it also means making sure that you're providing care to them in a way that they're comfortable with. Obviously, consent is important when it comes to healthcare in general, but when it comes to something like palliative care, which is in many ways much more intimate than other forms of healthcare, you can understand why consent is even more important when it comes to palliative care. Number 4 is choice. So basically, this means providing care to the individual in a way that adheres to their wishes. So another way to put it is caring for that individual how and where they choose. So for example, if they want to be cared for at home, then it is up to you to ensure that they are cared for in a home or hospice setting as opposed to a hospital setting. And I'll actually include a link in the description below to an article about a new hospice that they're going to be opening up in Halifax in 2019. And finally, the last principle is communication. When you're providing palliative care, it is essential to maintain good communication with the individual you're caring for and their family, to keep them up to date with what's going on and keep them in the loop. But it also means communicating with them in a non-judgmental, easy to understand way. You have to keep in mind that the person you're caring for probably doesn't have a lot of experience when it comes to medicine, and so they're not going to understand a lot of medical lingo. So it's kind of important to explain things in layman's terms and in just plain language, but also in a non-judgmental way. Really, when it comes down to it, as you can see, palliative care is about more than just managing someone's diagnosis. It's also about ensuring that the individual you're caring for is comfortable and is being treated with dignity. The fact is, dying is a scary thing. It's something that most people don't really like to think about. But palliative care can help alleviate some of that anxiety, not just for the individual receiving care, but also for their loved ones. And I think that's really important. Palliative care, although it's something that people don't really like to talk about, I think it is a very essential thing, because it allows people to kind of live out their last days with dignity. And, I think that's a really important thing. Anyway, so that's just a brief overview of some of the principles of palliative care. On Thursday, I'll be releasing a video in which I talk more about what palliative care is, what its purpose is, and why it's important. So subscribe if you want to see that video. And also be sure to follow Squeaky Wheel Productions on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And as always, if you enjoyed today's vlog and you want to see more videos like this one, then please support me on Patreon. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you in 2019.